G'day Bomber fans. A week is a long time in footy. Last week we were cooked as a club. Now I don't even know what we are. Is this a blip or is it a step in the right direction? I don't know. All I know is it was a great game of footy and a great gutsy win for the club. Finals is still a chance, but I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not getting sucked in, but I am pretty happy with that win, so we are going to talk about that. Let's get into it. Let's get into the round 21 review. Alrighty, four-quarter recap. We were always going to get off to a fast start. A response starts from the start, and we kicked 3 of the first 4. Freo were able to stem the flow and respond to our response. It was a conversation, if you will, and it showed you how the game would play out. Momentum swings, teams scoring consecutive goals. It was a fun game. The second quarter was a frustrating one. The Dockers really started to get going, and they were nuts in front of goals too. 5 goals zip. On the flip side, we were really struggling going inside 50 and to score. The pressure was still there, but the Dockers were looking a class above. They won the quarter by 22 points and held a nice lead at halftime. The third really worried me. They didn't dominate like they did on the scoreboard in the second, but they started to absolutely annihilate us in the guts. They were all over us, and we were just doing well to hang in. The game was by no means done, but the Dockers had the lead and had control of the match. And the fourth, what a wild finish to the game. We channeled our inner prime Barcelona and started to play some champagne footy, highlighted by a period of about 10 or so minutes where we were piling on goal after goal. We got the lead. We lost the lead when Amos kicked what at the time looked to be a draw sealer. And then enter Sam Durham, who kicked the biggest point of his career with about 30 seconds left on the clock. We won the game just in the end by 1 point. It was a thriller. It was a great win. So let's talk about it. How did we win this game of footy? Well, to start with, and most importantly, we actually played like we had something to prove. Scott Light highlighted during the week that we've been playing to avoid loss in recent games. We looked reactive against the Crows and reactive against the Saints. Here we were making the Dockers react. Our pressure was immense, especially in that forward half. I reckon that was a directive. 18 tackles inside 50. Against the Crows we had 6, and the Saints beat us as well in that stat line. We were so hot when the ball was bubbling. Our midfield was incredible. The contest work there was as good as it's been. But that forward pressure really forced us to change our game. We've been relying on ball movement from the back half that just isn't working in recent weeks, so we changed it up and made it all about what we can do when the ball is in our forward half. That is what you can do with good sustained forward pressure. 18 tackles inside 50 to 8. We had 11 scores from our forward half, most behinds, but that shows you how we can look to build off the back of pressure. 10 scores from turnover, 11 from our front half, and 8 from centre bounce. That is just 6 of our 25 scores that came from the back half of the ground. It's fun and pretty to watch us pick apart teams at our best in transition, but it doesn't hold up. This style of play does. If we were to play finals footy, not saying we will, but if we somehow got in, I would much rather see us play with this pressure and forward half turnover game, because that is how you win against good teams. We really locked the ball in at times. Freo only had 44 inside 50s. You've got to be happy with the way we responded. What I'm worried about now is whether or not it's actually sustainable above the shoulders, or if we need a brutal kick up the bum like we had to play like this again. Let's talk about the midfield. I highlighted Freo being the best stoppage clearance team in the comp, but struggling a bit at centre bounces in my preview, and I think Scott might have done the same with the boys, because well, the Dockers don't like space at stoppages, so we gave them a paddock to worry about when the ball was being bounced. We backed ourselves in to hit the ball at pace and out of the front of a pack. We allowed the Dockers so much room to move, but that also gave us room to move as well. It backfired once or twice with Hayden Young in particular, but the damage we did from centre bounces was crazy. It was immeasurable. It's what won us the game in the end. 8 scoring shots to 4 from centre bounces. There were some massive scores this weekend from other teams in the comp, but no team scored more from centre bounces than we did on the weekend. That was the game in the end. Every centre bounce was so important, and it was capped off by that Durham point. People are going to talk about how Merritt was allowed so much space at the end to get that clearance, but it was happening all day. We also just went super basic with our midfield dynamic. We took Perkins out of the team. We gave Stringer full-time forward minutes. We only had Merritt, Parrish, Caldwell, Durham, and Shield feature in centre bounces, and that is all we needed. All 5 were brilliant on the day. The work rate was outstanding. No one was taking midfield minutes away from each other. We have about 5 guys in the VFL who could get a spot in that midfield if we wanted to share it around, but we don't need to if we're playing that well in the guts. Weirdly enough, I actually think the win was only really possible and only really eventuated because of that momentum swing in the fourth quarter. We piled on 5 or 6 goals in a row. We got the lead and did well to manage that lead, but without those 10 minutes, if the game just evened out at that time, we would have lost. For about 60 or maybe even 70% of the day, Freo were the team in control. We were getting more territory, but there are still issues with how we manage that territory dominance. It's funny how much a point can change things, because I was angry after that Amos goal to level the scores. I was ready to talk about what a wasted opportunity this game was. Then a point later and we were over the moon. I think we need to remember though that the game was so close to being a draw and a missed opportunity. We got the win, but I still think there are issues, and I really hope the 4 points doesn't paper over the cracks because we are still so average going inside 50. I thought we were better on Sunday, but just look at the stats. 15 plus inside 50s, 25 scoring shots to 19, but we only won by a point. We're still relying on our quantity over quality, and it's lost us a few games in the last few weeks. You know, what really surprised me is that we haven't lost the inside 50 count in weeks. We had more than the Saints, more than the Crows. We're getting the ball in there, but just really struggling to get that last kick right. We would be talking about this game differently if Durham was tackled or his kick was smothered at the end. Really, one disposal has completely changed the mood and the way we look at this match, but I'm trying to think of it as if we drew and how frustrated our fans would yet again be with wasted opportunities, because there were plenty of them on Sunday. In saying that though, I thought we did really well to win the game when we were in the position to win it. As good as the comeback was, it was what happened after that won us the match. I look at the Adelaide loss. That was passion without maturity. We came back, we weren't headstrong enough to hold our lead. Here we came back and managed to get the job done. I look at the efforts of guys like Jake Kelly. That smother on Hayden Young was huge. Zach Merritt, even guys like Roberts throwing his body around in his first game, or Davey when he came on the field. Sam Draper's efforts in that last quarter, Dylan Shield, just the team as a whole. We've been so good for most of this year at closing out tight matches and grinding to get the job done. As untrustworthy as we are week to week, I genuinely feel safe-ish when the game is on the line. That's why the Adelaide loss was really deflating, because it was so rare for us not to win a game in those circumstances. I think even though the game wasn't in our hands for about 70% of it, we were better when it really mattered, and that's why we got the win. Credit to the boys. They weren't just mature, they were really passionate. Look at Caldwell at the end of that game. That was pure passion, that celebration. That isn't happiness, that is just passion for the club. We need more guys like him who seem to really care about this team. Alrighty, some individual things to note from yesterday's game. Xavier Dersma came off the ground late. I don't know how bad that is. I guess we're going to find out tomorrow, but something tells me it could be another stint on the sidelines. I don't know. The silver lining is that if that's the case, Archie Roberts was pretty good in his first game. Nick Cox was pushed back into defence to cover for Ridley, allowing Roberts to play full-time wing minutes on that left side. Cox really struggled to contain his direct opponent though, so too did Laverty. So we need to see how we can best replace Jordan Ridley, because it didn't work on the weekend. Jai Menzie, I wonder if he's either made the sub or taken out of that team soon, especially because Ben Hobbs is playing a similar role. Oh, I guess he can play a similar role. He can apply pressure. So too can Nick Hind. He's still waiting. There are still some passengers in this team. It wasn't a perfect performance, but I think the fact we swung the axe, changed the dynamic, tried to find a team that works and got a result from it, that's promising. I hope we don't get greedy and bring back Goldie or Wright or Heppel because we're still in the hunt for finals. I really want to see us stick fat with Roberts and Brian and Caddy, who all played well. It worked, so why not continue the winning formula? Look, all in all, it's a win. It's a good win against a good team. You can't be unhappy about that. You can be confused and wonder where this footy's been for months, and I feel like it's fair to be a bit worried as well. Are we going to have to rely on weeks like we just had to give us a kick up the bum and respond? Is that how we are going to have to play our best footy now when we have something to prove? Because that's just not going to hold up. That'll never hold up. As happy as I am with this win, I still think there is plenty to dislike about the club right now, and I just hope that it's not going to paper over the cracks. I want to see that passion and grit in every game to round out the year. We can't keep supporting a team that picks and chooses when they want to perform. How can we be so average against St Kilda and Adelaide but so good against Freo? I don't know. I'm happy with the result, but I'm very cautious with my optimism for these last few weeks. I'm not thinking about finals. I'm not thinking about anything other than the Bombers proving they can play good footy without faltering, because the last month before this game was really rough to watch. We can't forget that, and if we miss finals, it's because of that. So let's see how we close out the year, but before any other games, we of course have to go through the votes. Alright, votes. 1 to Mason Redman. That was vintage Redman. He was everywhere, providing so much run of halfback, especially late. He was ridiculously good. 2 to Jai Caldwell, who's just having an unbelievable year. This was one of his very best games, and that's saying something because he's had some awesome matches. 3 votes though to Jake Stringer. I just feel like his energy seeped through to the rest of the team. His fast start, his passion, 4 goals, 10 tackles, 6 inside 50. 6 tackles inside 50 is nuts. Most of the round by a mile. My role player is Dylan Shield, 20 touches. It doesn't seem great, but his clearance work was unmatched. He was so important. 6 centre clearance, that's awesome, and 100% disposal efficiency as well. Some guys that could have polled: Nick Martin, Sam Durham, Zach Merritt, Jade Gresham was good. There were quite a few good performers from the game. It was very hard to find votes, so leave yours down in the comments below. But that is that. A good Bombers win. It's hard not to be optimistic. I'm trying to be cautious with my optimism. I did say in the preview that it would be very Essendon-like to go out and beat Freo, only to follow it up with with a drubbing by Gold Coast, at the hands of Gold Coast, I should say. We'll see how that game goes. I'll put out my review for that on Wednesday. For now, though, like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, get your votes down in below, and of course, as always, go Bombers.